Hello, coders. Good afternoon. It is episode 121 of the How to Code Well podcast. I am now live as I usually am, or this time every Thursday. It is Thursday, the 28th of November, which can only mean one thing, that my MacBook Pro will be arriving in about 2, perhaps 3 weeks, depending on supply chain issues. But I'm super excited for that. Today we've got a quite a large-ish show. I've been taking notes throughout the week of things that I want to say, and it's just increased as the days have gone by. So we've got some housekeeping, then we've got some news, and then I want to talk a little bit about the podcast site and the changes to that. So let's first up get to the housekeeping. First of all, we have a new website for the podcast. I say a new website. The address is the same as it was before, howtocodewell.fm, but it is new. It has been reborn out of the ashes of Sculpin, and Sculpin is a great framework, but it just didn't suit for what I was trying to use it for. I'm going to discuss that more throughout the show as why I decided to go the direction I did, how I've built it, and future improvements and that kind of stuff. So I'll discuss the details of that later on. The assets, the images of the main site, so howtocodewell.net, are now back and restored. I was having a lot of issues with SSL. One of my SSL certificates ran out, and it was at the time when there was a problem with the hosting provider on their end, and it basically ran over the time in which I should have renewed it, and it took a while for them to put the right wires in the right holes, I suppose. But yes, the long and short of it is that the assets are now back and are being served properly. So that's great, and everything is working as it should. That site is still a Gatsby site. I am yet to migrate the Symphony work that we've been doing over to the new stuff, but it's as it was, which was good. Okay, so also I am planning a new course, and I'm planning this live on YouTube. So this is a beginner-friendly course, and this is something that I haven't really done before. I haven't planned a course on live. Which I started it last Tuesday or this Tuesday, and it was good. It was good. I actually think we got quite a lot planned through. It isn't planned as much as I would normally plan it on my own, plan a course on my own, and that's because I am streaming live. I'm thinking about the code. I'm also talking to the chat. There's a lot of plates to spin when you're streaming, obviously. So I didn't have full concentration on the things that I was on any one thing. But saying that, I do think that I'm going to continue planning this. Let's just talk about the course for a minute. So this is a beginner-friendly PHP course, and this is going to teach session management as well as like logging in and logging out of a system. And this is, like I said, very beginner friendly. There's not going to be any frameworks involved. It's going to teach raw basic. Basic's not the right word. The raw vanilla PHP. None of that is basic. So raw vanilla PHP from the ground up. And we're going to be doing things like not just PHP, a little bit of HTML, a little bit of CSS, no frameworks whatsoever. And it's the emphasis is going to be, or the current emphasis, shall we say, is going to be around sessions. However, as in my previous experience goes, when I create these courses, the origin story, shall we say, gets very diluted. It gets molded. Excuse me. This is a live show, as you can tell. It gets changed. The scope changes, and I focus more on, say, I don't know, teaching functions than I do teaching methods and or classes or MVC stuff or whatever. Things start to move, and And that's why I haven't really boiled down the title of the course, because I usually come up with the title at the end of the course. I say usually. I haven't actually done a course this year, so this is, and the reason why I'm planning this is because I'm getting that MacBook Pro, and I want to use that as the machine that I'm going to do my recording on, or at the very least the editing on. So I'm trying to get this all prepared. So I think I originally wanted this to be like 3, maybe 4 streams, but I've got a feeling it's going to go on for a little bit longer than that, just because I'm coming up with different ideas as I go. So that is happening every Tuesday, and this is going to be a YouTube only thing. So I stream. If you don't know, I stream on the weekends on Twitch. And I'm going to keep that for something else. We'll talk about that later. But the YouTube streams from here on out will be focusing on the planning of that course. And when I say planning, I don't just mean writing the code. I mean actually planning lesson plans, coming up with the requirements of the learner, the prerequisites that the learner needs to have in order to come up, to take on the course. So the learning outcomes, I'm planning all of that stuff. I'm also doing a little bit of script writing as well. So all of that is going to be done on, live. So it's totally interesting, sort of out of my comfort zone sort of thing. So again, that happens every Tuesday, and that's going to be happening around 6 p.m., which is British summertime here in the UK, every Tuesday. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is yes, I've been making YouTube Shorts. I've been playing around with the YouTube Shorts stuff, so it's like YouTube's version of TikTok. So vertical videos, and I have released 2 in the last 2 weeks, and I think that's probably how I'm going to do it at the moment. However, I have others scheduled to go for like next Monday and then the following week and so on and so forth. And I've been creating like little bite-sized tutorials in vertical video around PHP. So the first one I did was about the spaceship operator in PHP. And the second one I've done is regarding the null coalescing operator. Now, I've got links in the show notes below for those if you want to see them. I'm just playing around with it. These are also going to be on TikTok too. TikTok too, that's a mouthful. And we'll just see. There's more coming. I've done some recording for a lot more, and they'll be coming down the pipeline. So I've been focusing, like I said, primarily on PHP, and I'm going to be doing some PHP 8 kind of things. And these are very bite-sized. These are kind of like just... they're only 60 seconds long. That's how small they are. So you have to be very precise. It's a very different way of creating content, which I'm finding very interesting at the moment. So yeah, check them out. If you do come across them, do take a look. And if you've got any suggestions for future shorts, anything that I can teach within 60 seconds around the stuff that I do here on How to Code Well, that would be awesome if you've got suggestions. The next one is that it's a sort of a personal business thing, and that is that I am in the market for buying a NAS, which is a network attached storage device. This is because, this happens. I have this every time I go and buy another device. I buy a laptop or a desktop or something. Every time this happens, I'm in that predicament of, I really need to sort out my backups. I have backups obviously here in the office, but they're not great at all. They're the typical backups that you would probably, you know what I mean. And what I would like is some centralized place where I store all the things, and all the time machines go there, and everything is in one nice condensed area. Now I have a rack server. It's a half rack server. A rack unit thing. And I have, looking at this now, about 4 different bays available to me. And I'm thinking I'm looking at the RS1221 Plus from Synology. So it has to be a Synology thing. That's where I've got my heart set to. either that or the DS, which is the desktop version, which is, I'm thinking, maybe the 1621 Plus. Anything that isn't an XS, I would have loved to get hold of an XS Plus, but unfortunately, they don't support SHR. I know we're going into a bit of the weeds here with the backup stuff, but SHR essentially allows you to mix and match your drives. I don't have a ton of money to spend on these terabyte drives, and you can get all the way up to, as I saw the other evening, like 18 terabytes now. It's insane, but you have to basically sell your kidney for one of those. So yeah, with SHR, it allows you to mix and match the drives. So you can not only mix and match the make and model of the drives and the speed of the drives, but also the capacity of the drives, which is what I'm looking for. Obviously, with the XS Plus stuff, it's more geared towards enterprise, in air quotes, and they have huge warranties on them, which kind of is their way of justifying the fact that if you can spend that amount of money, then you won't be using SHR. You'll just be using typical RAID, and you'll be buying all the drives at once, and they'll all be the same capacity. And the next time the budget rolls over, you'll have enough money to just upgrade all the things. I can't work like that, unfortunately. My pockets aren't that deep. So SHR is my way of doing that. So anyway, I am in the market for a NAS drive. So I don't know yet when or what I'm going to pick up, but I should be hopefully picking something up before that MacBook comes in. So then it gives me a little bit of time to organize myself better. Okay, let's move on to the news. The first one is a very PHP-centered news thing, and that is something that I'm probably going to say every time we do a podcast until probably November the 28th, 2021. If you're a PHP developer and you don't have that date embedded in your brain, then hopefully by that time, all the podcasts that I do will force you in order to come up with an upgrade plan. What I'm saying here is that PHP 7 that was released in 2015 is now losing active support in November the 28th this year. Okay, so it is the 28th now. You have a month of active support for PHP 7. After that, there is a year support until November the 28th, 2022, for what's called extended support. So this is support for things like security fixes and so on. But it's not going to be actively maintained. It's not going to be actively improved. It's going to be actively maintained from the security standpoint, but not actively improved. So what I would like is for you to, the takeaway on this is just get an upgrade plan together. If you haven't done so already, please do. And I will be talking about this, reminding everybody every time I do a stream until the 28th next month. So yeah, after November the 28th, 2022, Microsoft, this is another kicker, Microsoft will no longer support PHP. November the 28th, 2022, Microsoft will no longer support PHP. So if you're using PHP in Microsoft World, then you need to have a plan for that. Okay, so moving on to the second article. This is an awesome one. So Bash auto-completion is coming to the Symfony console. And this has got me really excited. I use auto-completion when I'm in the terminal all of the time. And apparently this is coming in a future Symfony update. So this adds support to autocomplete commands and option names, also allowing you to dynamically complete values for arguments and options. It's a brilliant thing. It means that you can add custom completion support to your own commands and open source projects. How amazing is that? I mean, PHP and Symfony just continue to improve all the time. It's just so good to see these little things coming in. I didn't even know I needed that, but now I want it, and every project will have that. Thank you for saying both shorts are super cool. Oh, that's great to know. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So Bash auto-completion and Symfony console commands. I'm so looking forward to that. That's super cool. Okay, in the next piece that I want to talk about, things that aren't super cool. This is something that I just had to read again and again, and then I watched the actual video footage of it, and it's one of those things that you literally can't write. It's just so embarrassing. So the Missouri governor has released a fundraising video stating that digging around in HTML is a crime. Oh, come on. This is after social security numbers were found of teachers in HTML code. I mean, that's crazy, right? So code that would be clear text in HTML, or at least I would hope base 64 encoded, even though, I mean, it's encoded, so it's not in clear text, but still, that's not good. Apparently, the journalists were able to hack the HTML source code. You really can't make this stuff up. It's ridiculous. This is a problem, in my opinion, where you have too many yes people surrounding sort of a high-powered politician. And it's not just that the governor got the terms wrong. It's the fact that there were so many people who okayed his statement. He actually went out and said that the HTML source code was hacked. I mean, come on. Right-click open source. There we go. And in my opinion, it's not the fault of the journalist. It's the fault of the person who actually put that in the source code. It's the programmer. I mean, you can't even say it's a programmer because it's a HTML. I mean, if it was to be base 64 encoded, I don't even know if it was, but you would need to have JavaScript to do that. I don't know. And then manipulate the DOM with all that. I don't know. This is like one of these really messy sort of legal areas. Let's see if we can get out of this. Okay, so the next piece of info isn't that particularly good either, and that is about Microsoft, talking about people that you don't trust. Microsoft is losing confidence in the .NET community. And yes, I know I'm not part of that community. I used to be. I used to do a little bit of that, but I don't do it anymore. But this is a bit sad. This is a little bit sad because I've done many videos before about Microsoft and their advances into and their great support of open source. However, what's happened recently is that the certain features have been removed, like completely removed from .NET, and then re-added again, based on business decisions. And it's a bit sad. The whole thing is a bit, and it just leaves a little bit of a sour taste. So let's talk about what they did. So there's this utility called Hot Reload, and you were able to use that in .NET, in the preview versions of .NET, and it's basically like hot reloading. It's like your npm watch, that kind of jazz, that stuff. It's a very powerful thing, and it was a business decision that was made about removing that from .NET and only allowing that to be in VS Code. VS Code is the paid IDE. And so basically they had this OS thing, the .NET, and they pulled that out and they wanted to put that into a paid thing. And there was all sorts of excuses and stuff. One excuse that I read was that they pulled it out because of the conflicting priorities with other things. They couldn't really maintain all of that stuff. But the thing that really annoys me is the fact that they just completely removed it without any form of consideration to the developers. They didn't ask the developers. They didn't think about the community before they did it. And if you remove a feature that is already being used and is perhaps not seen at the moment as stable, then there are ways that you could include it into your stable version, but as a sort of a preview, as a kind of a hidden under a user opt-in sort of thing. The fact that they actually completely removed the code, that just doesn't leave a good taste, to be honest. So I mean, if they had a user opt-in thing, this would give developers the freedom of choice to use it or not. The complete removal of the feature seems quite drastic to me. Unfortunately, I feel like this damage has already been done, and a lot of devs that I'm seeing on Twitter are not happy at all about this. And I don't want to sound over dramatic, but this does feel like the most closed source thing an open source wannabe kind of company can do. I mean, it's unfortunately eroded some of the trust in the platform. And it's because it was a business thing, a business decision. It's got a lot of backs up of people in the OS community, and it's sad because Microsoft have been and are doing some really good, taking good strides in the open source community, and things like this just don't help that progression, that journey. Okay, let's talk about something that is exciting, and that is the howtocodewell.net Let's start that again. Let's talk about something. See, normally when I would do this and I have talking like a robot now, usually when I do a recording like this and I'm not doing it live, I would put a break in and then I would pick that up on the audio level and I would cut, scroll back and then start again. And I would say something like, let's now talk about something more exciting. Let's talk about the howtocodewell.fm website. And then I would cut, and there we go. Okay, so this is a new site that I have built, and I have built it using Symfony 5.3. Beforehand, it was using Sculpin, which is a static site generator in PHP. However, I wasn't using it in the way it was intended. So I was finding that the maintenance overhead of a static site was quite huge because I would have to create these pages every time I did an episode, and that back then I was doing some interviews with people, and so we would have the podcast page that would be created. We would have the homepage that would be updated. We would have the guests page that would also be updated. We would have the Twitter icon, the avatar that would be included. There was a lot of things to do every week just for like an hour podcast, and I was thinking there must be a better way to do this. Essentially, the podcast is just a series of is just like an RSS feed, right? To anyone else, it's just an RSS feed that anybody can get hold of, and this RSS feed is supplied to Spotify and iTunes and then basically anywhere that plays this podcast, which is pretty much everywhere. So I thought, why don't I just use the RSS feed to populate automatically the website? Sounds sensible, right? I mean, it was a no-brainer after that. So what I did is I decided that Sculpin, yeah, great, not fit for my purpose. I'm going to just completely rebuild it using Symfony, and we're going to put it in a Docker container, and we're going to use SQLite as the database, because obviously you need to store the stuff. You can't just be reading from the RSS feed all the time. Plus, I might want to manipulate some of the content from the RSS feed. So it reads the RSS feed, and it does so through a Symfony console command on a cron. So it discovers what episodes are currently stored in the SQLite data store. And then if it's found one that it already knows of, it updates it. And if it hasn't found the thing that it's got, then it creates one. So after this show goes out, I can then run that cron, or that cron will automatically run, and it will pick this new show up, episode 121, as a new entity in the database and create that. It will then automatically update the homepage and, with the podcast player on there and other bits and pieces too, which is so handy because that means that it's so hands-off, which is what I wanted. I'm a super busy guy, and the last thing I want to do is just retype stuff again and again and again. Like, for instance, I'm reading here off of my notes, and these notes will go on to some of these notes will be updated and changed because there's a couple of grammar, I can't even say it, some spelling mistakes here and there, as I can see in red. And then that will be pushed to the podcast host as well, because you can add that. That will become part of the RSS feed, and then that will eventually turn out to be on the description page of the podcast, of the episode page. Whereas beforehand, with Skillpin, I would have to not only create the notes here, I would then put it in YouTube, I would then have to put it in the podcasting host, and then I would have to do something on the website. So that's like 3 different places of putting in the same piece of code or same content. The thing is, in each of those 3 different places, the content is slightly different and is formatted differently. Sometimes the podcast host that I was using beforehand had some various ways of doing like inline HTML. Yeah, it just got a bit messy. So now I'm just using the RSS feed as a single source of truth, which kind of makes sense, right? Kind of makes sense. So yeah, it reads the RSS feed to update the content. This is done, as I mentioned, through a Symfony console script, which I will be updating to use this bash auto completion when it does arrive, which I cannot wait for. Another really big thing that this site has is that it does have a contact form. Finally, there is a way that you guys can contact me and give me suggestions, or if you've got any questions, or you just want to have a shout out on the episodes, then you can come in contact there. So it's howtocodewell.fm/contact, and fill out that form. There's 2 radio buttons, whether or not you want this to be a private feedback, so feedback that I just keep to myself, or if you want it to be, want me to mention it live on the show. If you've got a question that you want to put out into the ether, or something that you just want me to mention, then you can do that. Now, there are obviously other ways that you can contact me through Twitter or through Discord, but this is more of a sort of because it goes directly to me in my inbox. I do read it, all the things, but this is more geared towards the podcast. It's more narrowed down in that sense, and there's a selection of different topics that you can ask. So if you've got a suggestion for the podcast, that's one. If you've got, I think there's one there for if you've got a suggestion for a future course, if you want to be a guest on the show, or if you know of someone who would like to be a guest on the show, on all of that stuff. So you can tailor down your contact as you see fit. Now, in terms of structuring and configuration, this is all done in Terraform and Ansible. Like I said, it's in a Docker container. Other features include that it has better URL support. So, for example, beforehand, on the old site, there was like howtocodewell.fm/episode and then / a huge, horrible, URL slug, episode number hyphen, and then blah, 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 blah. And that got really messy because, again, I would have to come up with that by hand. Now it's just howtocodewell.fm / the episode number. So this will be howtocodewell.fm / 121. Boom. That's all. Excuse me. So yeah, it's got a better URL structure. There's a lot of things that I have yet to do. So for example, it doesn't have a sitemap anymore. It doesn't have other things, like it needs to have a proper favicon. It needs better social media tag support and all of that stuff. Meta stuff. There's some mobile issues that I need to address, some CSS stuff that I need to work on. By the way, it doesn't have any sort of particular framework in terms of CSS. It's just raw CSS. I mean, it is a relatively small site, and I want to keep it as simple as possible. But it is using Symfony. And we're going to be improving this site live, and this is what we're going to be doing on Twitch. That plus the howtocodewell.net site, as well as other How to Code Well-esque things. So, as I mentioned right at the start of this, when I was talking about the PHP course that I'm planning, that will be done on YouTube. That will happen every Tuesday. And then the howtocodewell.fm and the improvements to howtocodewell.net and other things will happen on Twitch. Now, about Twitch, I think I mentioned beforehand that some weekends I'm going to have to mix and match when I do Twitch on the Saturday or the Sunday. This weekend I can only do it on the Saturday because I'm busy on the Sunday. So I'm going to try and keep consistency in terms of the timings. So it's always going to happen at 14:30 British summertime. But in some cases, it's going to happen on the Saturday, and in some cases, it's going to happen on the Sunday. It really depends on what I've got planned over the weekends. I do search and rescue with my dog, my English Springer Spaniel Murphy, and because the evenings are getting darker now, we tend to be doing those over the weekends rather than on the evenings during the week. So, and they can fall on either Saturday or Sunday. So we need to be a little bit flexible there. And then obviously because of, the lockdowns have been lifted, it's nice to go and actually see people now. So yeah, I'm still going to be streaming on Twitch, but it's going to be a little bit hickledy-pickledy for the time being, I think. So that's happening. Well, I have covered all the bits that I wanted to talk about. If you've got any questions, suggestions, any feedback, anything that you want to discuss with me, or anything that you want to discuss out for me to mention out on the show, please go to howtocodewell.fm/contact and write me a message. Just say hello. That'd be great. I'm going to shoot off now. Thank you ever so much for watching, and this will be published on the podcast players tomorrow morning. Happy coding. See you again soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.